A lot of businesses in their growth, as they grow their business, they know that there's a point at which they need to work with a marketing agency. It's kind of a must-have. You really have a hard time growing without someone specialized in taking your message, helping you craft your message, and kind of put it out there in terms of a big benefit to solving someone's problem. And that's what marketing agencies do. They should specialize in telling your story and bringing your brand to the public eye in a way that you've been able to do to a certain level. But typically an agency is going to help you go next level in terms of messaging and broadcasting to the people that need to hear you, what you do, what problem you solve, and how you fix it. Today's interview is awesome. We interviewed an agency owner out of Des Moines, Iowa, who's growing his impact throughout the country. He's got clients in New York, he's got clients in other cities, and he is great at helping people share and tell their stories. Today's interview is amazing because Dave Makin is able to take his company, Nexus 6, to those who need to better message and clarify their brand out to the general public. And so he does a good job of it. He's been able to grow and scale his business over the last 5-6 years. And in so doing, really learned the craft and really sees the pain that most businesses are going through when they're trying to hit a growth phase in their messaging. So I hope you get something out of this interview that helps you learn what it takes to scale your business. Thanks and good luck. Welcome to the Growth and Scaling Podcast. This is your host, Todd Westra, and I am so glad you're here today because we are going to interview an amazing founder or executive who is going to share with us their decisions that they made that exploded their growth. So if you need some inspiration, you want to hear how other businesses are doing it, this is the place to be, and we are glad you're here. Enjoy this episode. Hey, I'm so excited today. We have got Dave Makin on the show today, and he is going to make a lot of cool things for us on the creative side of things. Dave's got an amazing background. We're going to jump right into this interview, though, and listen to what he has done and understand a little bit about, Dave, who are you, and what have you grown and scaled?
Who am I? Yeah, I think when you're an entrepreneur, there's no really good answer for it because I think you kind of have to do everything, right?
Yes.
So I'm currently the founder and CEO of Nexus 6, marketing agency here in Des Moines, Iowa.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've been doing this thing for about 6 years now, so
love it.
Just it's been quite the wild ride. It's started in the basement. Well, actually, before the basement, before my home office.
Right.
It was just a desk in the corner of my living room, and then we've scaled that to a point where we actually just got back from Manhattan last week on a
nice
working with a client out there. So yeah,
nice. Hey, when Manhattan clients come to a Des Moines, Iowa-based marketing agency, you're doing something right.
Right. So it's been fun.
I love agency owners, and a lot of people have love and hate feelings towards marketing agencies because we as agency owners, I also have owned a marketing agency in the past. People think that we're just speaking a different language sometimes, and they don't really know that what we do is a long-term play, right? How do you envision an agency how do you position yourself, I guess, in the growth pathway of other companies?
Yeah, I found that, certainly we fit into the whole kind of dynamic as a storyteller.
Right.
So we've been able to, we do a very good job of not just regurgitating what a company does, but rather kind of drill down and find that narrative and tell a story that's actually compelling. And somebody listening to that is like, oh, wow, that chapter 1 was a great chapter. I'd like to learn more in chapter 2.
Right.
I find that a lot of people, when they're working in their own space, get comfortable in talking in their own terms. And, you kind of need that outside look at things to say, that's cool that it makes sense to you, but you're not talking to you, right?
Right.
You're talking to somebody who you need to kind of, you have to sell them first, right?
I love it.
And by nature, I think that's how people have come to understand things that they didn't understand before, right? Stuff that didn't make sense.
Totally.
Make sense via telling a story, right? So
I
always look at the Greeks and the Romans, right? They were like, oh, the sun, what's that? Well, that's a guy in a flaming chariot riding across the sky.
Right.
And that makes sense, because if you were like, no, it's a giant ball of gas that's on fire in the middle of space, well, that doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
So even the most complex of things can be made easy and accessible to people through stories.
Well, clearly you've done a good job telling your story. How do you, some agencies are geared very much towards like a very creative, artistic side. Some agencies I've met are really geared towards the storytelling and narrative and language side. Some do a really good job of both, and some people just are more like video and social media type oriented. Where did you feel like you have really specialized in, and what has been the most fun thing about kind of growing into that and maturing into that type of agency?
Where we excel is combining the content with context. Content being extremely important, but I always look, and again, I kind of look at it this way, right? If facts by themselves have really no value outside of context.
Interesting.
Right? So you can tell somebody, you can show people a report of any kind of factual information and say, oh, this is what the report says, but outside of context, it has no meaning.
Right.
It's just facts, right?
Right.
It's just trivia. And so I think what we've been able to do is kind of find the compelling content.
Yeah.
Shape that in the form of the correct context.
Sure.
And
meaning what? Like in the context of how does what they do help fix someone's problem, or what do you mean by that?
Well,
go deeper.
Yeah. So it's to say that sometimes content and context, the way that is brought across is either video or it's through design, it's through copyright. So we're a firm believer in, we don't do the same thing every time just because it worked before.
Right.
We're a very kind of sit down, get to know somebody to tell their unique story, and their unique story has to be told unique ways, right? So we've got in-house video production, in-house web design, development, social media management, and as I say, it's kind of understanding each platform and each medium is so different on how the story is presented, right? And so something something you tell via social media channels, not necessarily the same you would tell via video, right?
Right.
And so it's kind of understanding that those dynamics to make sure that at the end of the day, you're making your client money, right?
Right. No, that's obviously
seeing success.
That's obviously where you find success is when your clients are actually seeing growth, right?
I always tell people I want them to be successful because they'll continue to pay me money.
Right.
So
I think that's a very clear message.
Right. Well, man, that's the game, right? It's
100%.
Nobody's going to come to you and say, I don't want to spend $1 million in marketing if they're making $2 million a month. And, so
totally.
It's not so much the budget that's a problem. It's the return on it.
I couldn't agree more. I love that about what you just said. Now, as you think about this question, I want to talk about it both from your own narrative, but also from your client's narrative, and you're a unique guest on the show because agency owners have to think about their own business growth challenges, as well as they're constantly thinking about the challenge of explaining their client's narrative, right? So What do you think about the biggest challenge in growth and scaling? I want to know first, what has been your biggest challenge? And then second, what do you see as like a common challenge with other businesses that you're trying to help?
I think inevitably, regardless of the business that you're in, being an entrepreneur, I think that the biggest challenge is always going to be doubt.
Right.
Whether it's self-doubt, whether it's, kind of your kind of immediate network doubt, it's just, I don't know if you, and then, as well as when you first start off, it's the doubt from your kind of prospects that, you're new. Are you going to be able to do it? Right. And I always tell people, to be an entrepreneur, you kind of have to be full of yourself.
You do.
You kind of have to be like, I'm going to do something that statistically is probably going to fail, but I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
And so, so I think that was always the biggest hurdle for me is, you didn't sell something. You're like, oh man, am I doing the right thing? Is it going to work? And just kind of plowing through that level of doubt. So I would say, and I think that, again, that's probably the biggest, not so much the fact that, when we're working with clients, it's that they doubt our ability to do it.
Right.
I think there's always that kind of gap, there's kind of that, what is it called? Like the valley of disappointment, or that kind of, that, you have that dip when you actually start seeing stuff come together.
Yeah.
And there's always that doubt that creeps in, like, oh man, is it going to work? Is it going to work? And kind of being able to say, like, as much as you would like things to happen immediately, that's just not the way it works. And kind of coaching them through that to say, kind of, but again, I think that just comes back to how well you handle kind of expectations and that relationship. So they trust you to be able to say, 100%, I got your best interest at heart, and we're going to make this work.
You brought up a couple of really interesting points there. You talked about this valley of death or valley of despair, where there is this point at which when you're trying to grow and scale something, you kind of feel like, okay, are we really getting through to people? Is this really hitting the pain of what people want me to solve for them? And I think that, to your point, doubt is probably a huge, huge business killer. It's a growth killer.
Oh yeah.
Am I really fixing someone's problem?
Yeah, right. And that was always the thing is, and certainly in a marketing role, it's, you're starting up and you're concerned about the health of your own business, but now you got to worry about the health of somebody else's business.
Right.
And so you're like, oh man, I gotta make sure that, X number of companies actually are successful.
Right.
So, and
it gets tricky because not only do you have to message and build a client acquisition path, but you've also got to make sure that company knows what they're doing so that they can actually fulfill what it is what you're selling, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've learned along the way is that part of it is just, is making sure that they've got things cropped up on their side. We've had some clients that, we've been running, early on it was, more service based, and, we'd be like, okay, we're sending leads to you and da-da-da-da-da. And then they're like, well, I haven't been able to get to the phone. My phone, the voicemail box is full. And it's just like,
brother.
And it's going to come back on us as the marketing.
I know.
Like, I'm not seeing any leads. And you're like, I don't want to tell you, man, you're not answering your phone and it's going to voicemail and it says it's full, So, it's kind of one of those, there's things outside of your control, but understanding that part of being a marketer and growing successfully is forcing your clients to understand the process on their end. We can get leads to you. How are you going to close them? Right?
Yes. I love it. So what advice do you give to people who are dealing with that challenge of doubt?
It's hard. It's find, kind of find the right people that can kind of have faith in you, right? You find those kind of, like any, I was in sales for years before I started this company. And one of the things was you always look for those cheerleaders within the company you're trying to sell. Right? You find those cheerleaders. And those are the ones like, I believe in this guy. That I believe in what he's trying to do and trying to sell us. And they kind of go that for you. Growing that kind of personal network with people that are see the vision alongside you and really kind of support you and kind of give you that, man, this is awesome. You guys, you're doing really, you're doing awesome. Those are the ones that help you get through that kind of valley of despair, right? It's because you're like, I'm just slogging away. I'm doing all this work and nothing's happening. And then once once it hits, man, you're like, yes, success breeds success, right?
Right.
And it's, so I guess, I think to start a business, I would say you kind of have to be full of yourself.
Yeah.
To grow a business, you have to be humble.
Interesting.
So you kind of, it's a weird dynamic where you have to be kind of like, I think I'm, do you know who I am kind of attitude to start it, but then you also have to be humble to be able to kind of take feedback and make the changes that you need to make in order to scale it.
I think what you're saying is so true. There's a common story I think kind of ties into this, is that, as a marketer, you really as any business owner, you need to position yourself as someone competent who can be a guide to help your clients get to a certain objective, right? Like, they're the hero. You're just saying, I'm just here to help. I can take you to this place of happiness and joy or whatever you're trying to do for them. But you got to trust me. I know what I'm doing, but here's where I'm going to take you. You're the main part of the story here, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I love it. Well, listen, in your network, when you find yourself hitting a wall, who do you look at in your own network of friends and mentors and peers that really kind of inspire you to just keep on going, push that next level?
For me, it's actually kind of fortunate because he's on the other side of the wall from my office. I have the
awesome.
pleasure of actually working with the guy, Nick Allard, who's been with us for a bit now. He phenomenal resume, right?
Awesome.
He was producing kind of early in the career, was producing videos for MTV. He's been in kind of TV forever.
Nice.
The guy's got 3 Emmys.
Wow.
So just an incredible guy. He's worked for some much larger agencies here in town, but he just comes kind of with this wealth of experience, but as well as just this kind of core understanding of how the industry works.
Love it.
And I've learned so much from him since he's worked here.
Very cool.
And we don't, like any good partnership, we don't ever see, we don't see eye to eye all the time, but I think you kind of have to not see eye to eye because otherwise you get stagnant, right? You just do stuff the same way that's always been done. And
yet another pain point of most businesses, right?
Right. He's a good friend, an excellent kind of confidant when it comes to kind of business.
I love it. Now, how do people get a hold of you? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you and learn more about what you're up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So the website is Nexus 6. That's NEXUS, the number 6, and then .io. So
perfect.
Or my email is dave@nexus6.io.
Awesome.
Definitely reach out to me there.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate your time today. This has been a great interview, and I hope that it helps other people learn what it takes to scale. This is what it's all about.
Absolutely, it is. We're all in this together.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Hey, you know what? I hope you enjoyed that interview. It's nice for other business owners to hear from an agency's perspective sometimes what it feels like to try and take on the challenge of telling someone else's story. You as a business founder, I hope you find that there are things that are a little bit difficult to tell about what you do. It sometimes can be hard to come up with the language that you need to convey to potential clients to attract them to your business. And more often than not, it's especially hard when you're in your business every day and you think that everyone understands what you're talking about, but the reality is you're speaking a different language to most people. They don't understand what you're even talking about. I dealt with this as an agency owner, and it was one of the most frustrating things when a client was bound and determined to use language and words that didn't speak clearly what problem they solved. And so my challenge to each of you, as you're looking to grow and scale your business, I hope that you can find someone like Dave who you can trust, who can help you message clearly the things that you need to say and do and look like in order to attract your perfect clients to come to you to get your goods and services. This is not an easy thing all the time. And there are certain niches and certain brands that are harder and harder to message. But my advice is to follow what Dave says. Learn to tell the story about the pain that you solve, and people are going to want to come to you to have you help them solve their problem. If you're not doing a good job of that, find an agency that you can trust, find an agency that can help you, and there's a lot of great ones out there. Dave's definitely one of them, and I hope this helps you find your path on what it takes to scale your business.